I guess he doesn't know I exist, but objectively, I am a fucking alien within an alien civilization, man, and it freaks me out just the thought of that. It fucking freaks me the fuck out, man. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, but yeah.
I was just editing a video. Here, let me just clean up real quick. So the original plan was for me to do this really epic meme, basically introducing this video, and this video being a lot more rambly than it's probably going to end up turning out to be. I don't even remember what the original reason was to not make this a rambly video, but I'm not making this a rambly video. This is just going to be me briefly summarizing each year since like 2017 or mostly 2018, basically when I stopped frequently posting. I don't know if this is going to be more boring or less boring that I'm summarizing it so much, but I've literally been trying to make this video for at least 4 years now, if not longer. I just want to make a quick disclaimer that what you're about to listen to is almost entirely from 2023, and it's basically the culmination of like 3 different recordings. Also, I'm going to be using Dark Souls 1 footage instead of old school RuneScape because Dark Souls 1 is my favorite video game of all time, and it's the game I play pretty often whenever I'm just trying to forget about life and just trying to immerse myself into another world. It ironically has a very therapeutic effect. For me at least, so I thought it fit the theme a bit more. Also, before I start, I just want to thank you for 100 subscribers. I know that in this day and age, 100 subscribers means very little because there are some channels that I've seen that have no videos and have more subscribers than I do, but nonetheless, it is still really cool to see. When I first started off, I didn't even think I'd be able to reach 100 subscribers. To me, it's a milestone, so I don't have like a 100 subscriber celebration or anything. I just wanted to shout it out. And lastly, I know this is way too fucking late, but I just want to thank everyone who commented on my Barrier Curse video. I know that none of the people who made those comments on my videos are ever going to hear this, but still, thank you guys so much for the nice comments. I read all of my comments, so it's really rewarding to see that. Anyways, so yeah, it's been COVID. How has everyone been doing since COVID? I have literally not done a single fucking commentary since I believe 2017. So this is basically like a long time reunion. Yeah, a lot has happened, and it's weird because it's been so long since COVID itself. COVID is almost like old news, but does anyone else feel like COVID is just still around? Or at least like the remnants of COVID is still around? It feels like COVID never actually left, and I mean, I don't want to go too much into it, but I've never gotten COVID. Even when I worked like 40 hours in like the front desk of a business, I still have not gotten COVID once. It's more of just like the overall mentality and mindset that people have is just not recovered. It's just permanently just been this post-COVID world. Anyways, before I get ahead of myself, let's just start with 2018. In 2018, I had some issues with Twitch streamers, and unfortunately, I kind of got lost in parasocial relationships. This was before the term parasocial relationships had ever even entered like the public lexicon. I am genuinely so happy that the word parasocial relationships exist, because one of the biggest challenges I had of parasocial relationships was the fact that I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone about it because they either wouldn't understand my situation or they would just judge me for my bad decision making. I will be honest, the first parasocial relationship I entered in was largely my fault. I came into the relationship with way too high expectations, and instead of blaming myself for having too high of expectations when those expectations weren't met, I basically shoved that responsibility onto the streamer. Don't get me wrong, there were definitely things that this streamer did that did not help the situation or may have even aggravated the situation, but this all rested on me just not being honest with myself about what to expect from a streamer. Normally this doesn't seem like such a big deal. However, because I listened to another member of the community that had a bone to pick with the streamer, they basically reframed a lot of problems or suspicions I had about the streamer in probably the least generous light possible. This of course made me extremely angry and made me really confused about what to do. I was completely torn as to whether or not I should leave this community because at the time this streamer seemed like a really bad person, but these were just still speculations, and I didn't want to leave a community I had spent over half a year on just due to speculation. And of course, like, the person that this viewer was trying to make the streamer out to be would never admit to doing any wrongdoing, so there was no way I was going to be able to solve it with the streamer themselves, so it was basically just agony of whether or not I should leave, which I ruminated over for like weeks. But in conclusion, and in hindsight, like, this streamer was not a bad person. She definitely made her own mistakes, and she definitely could have done things differently or not done things differently. But again, this was like 2017. These types of online relationships, even though they were just platonic, they were completely new, and neither of us were prepared for or equipped to handle the nuances of this, again, like, completely new dynamic. I said some stuff that I now regret, and I'm sure that there's probably some things that she said that she probably regrets, but ultimately we and everyone else on Twitch at the time were kind of the pioneers of this new era. And now we're going to move on to the next streamer, who happens to also be the last streamer I ever watched. I genuinely don't feel bad about saying that this streamer is a bad person. Like, there is so much to talk about, I don't even really know where to start. And again, I'm not trying to make this video too long, so here's like 2 things. One, she has a bunch of emotes of her face, and one of them is called the cringe emote, which is just her face cringing. And she would use this emote to passive-aggressively just neg her own community. And of course, you know, she would always deny this, saying that her community has a quote-unquote roasting culture. But no one ever roasted each other. And if you were to roast her, she would get genuinely upset at you. Which segues into my next point, which was the tipping point for me realizing what kind of a person she was. As quick as I can. Basically, there was this guy who was kind of a regular in her community, and he was being vulnerable and was saying that, you know, he was really lonely and that he couldn't find anyone to date. And so he basically resorted to going to Tinder because he felt like that was just kind of his last resort, right? And on stream, she calls him a virgin, and it's in the most sincere, like, non-comedic way possible, to the point where I'm just listening to the stream passively, and I'm just like, wait, what the fuck just happened? And I click into the stream, and the dude is obviously upset. He's like, what the fuck? And then he leaves, you know, reasonably so. And so I, like, you know, this is pretty deep into my time being in this community. And so I call her out on it, like, why did you insult this guy just randomly? Like, he was being, like, vulnerable, you know, just total cleansing of any sort of responsibility. It was the fact that she had zero remorse for insulting this guy. Even if it was totally a joke, you would think that someone would have at least some level of sadness that the joke was not conveyed, like, well, or like there was like some miscommunication of the joke. But no, she was like almost upset at me for even bringing up this issue. And it was very apparent that, like, any problem that you have with her, well, that's your fucking problem. That's not her problem. And this just extended to, like, all parts of her personality. Like, the complete uncertainty of whether, just knowing whether or not anything was the truth or was a quote-unquote joke. Like, everything was obscured intentionally to hide people's true feelings. And I've never seen, like, anywhere, I've never seen someone have this level of intentional obscurement other than someone like Sam Hyde. That is the only person that I've seen to have this level of obscurement, of intentional obscurement. But at least Sam has a good reason. You know, Sam does it because he's a content creator and he doesn't want people involved in his personal life. This streamer has a Discord. This streamer had like 30 people in her community or something, and she was tiny. You know, there's no reason for her to have this level of obscurement. It was totally just for self-gain. And it was to the point where it genuinely felt like gaslighting. Like, not like meme gaslighting, but like actual genuine gaslighting where literally nothing made sense anymore. And unfortunately, I think part of me not leaving sooner was just being lonely. Because this was kind of like a rebound off of the first streamer. And just the overall idea that, you know, this is just a phase, you know, we'll breeze past this and, you know, things will be good again, or, you know, you just have to like deal with the shit and then, you know, good times will come again, and things like, ideas like that are not very good to have when dealing with online relationships, you know? Like, it really was a genuinely awful experience. And that's pretty much where I'm going to leave this topic, because I don't want to start, because I have just too much to talk about. Nowadays, Twitch is almost unrecognizable as to what it used to be back in the day.
As per the Twitch TOS that has an entire section about body painting on it, and if anybody doesn't like it, they can suck a dick.
I just don't understand what's wrong with, like, worshiping a girl.
It doesn't really matter how much money you make or how much money you have. And it doesn't matter how broke you are. If you have time to watch Twitch, you have $10. I'm unemployed, so basically all my money goes to bills and food, or I would support you. Uh-huh. It's $5. It's really, like, you're...
$5 a month!
Back in the day, I remember, like, the biggest things on Twitch were League of Legends, Overwatch, and PUBG. PUBG especially, obviously. Like, I think back in the day, if you weren't playing some game of some sort, you would just be banned, like, temporarily, I think. And so the workaround that some of these, like, bad actors on Twitch were doing was they would have, like, I think, like, the League menu or something in, like, the bottom right corner. It was, like, 20% of their screen, and maybe even less. And then it was just them for, like, the rest of the screen, and then it eventually came into just chatting. And Twitch creating that category was not, like, a bad idea. I understand why they did it, because basically people were already doing that. I think what a lot of people wanted was that the channels that were trying to skirt around that rule was just to outright ban them. You know, that would have been, like, the communal thing to do, but, I mean, Twitch is a company, and I think by that time, Twitch was already owned by Amazon, so there was no way at all that they were just gonna, like, cull this entire user base that is giving them money. Like, of course they're not gonna do that. But yeah, Twitch back in the day was almost like social media. Like, it was a place to socialize. So I'm gonna talk about this more in a different video, because I do think that there are some lessons learned from my experiences from this. Although, again, at the same time, it's like, are people really going to make the same mistakes I did? Because the internet in the past 3 years, even the past 2 years, has changed so incredibly much that I just don't think that the platform is going to sort of warrant the same mistakes. Though I can see that there are going to be similar mistakes that someone could make in regards to, like, how they interact with others, especially, like, micro celebrities, if you will. So I guess just for the hell of it, if for no other reason other than to just talk about my own experiences, and hopefully someone might benefit from hearing that, but still just to express what I experienced, just for the sake of it. So a lot of factors, but including the situation with the Twitch streamers, actually pushed me to what I eventually did, which was truck driving. So, like, I know this sounds really out of left field, but this was basically a harebrained scheme to raise enough capital to start my own business and to basically avoid having to take out money for a loan. I thought, well, since I don't have any family dependent on me, I'm basically allowed to be on the road for as long as I wanted, which means I could be making a lot of money from that. I don't ever have to go home, and I could just constantly be, like, focused on money. So this whole quote-unquote adventure is, again, something I could easily spend a whole video on. But in essence, it was just a nightmare. The trainer I was assigned to, which I'm almost positive I was assigned to because I requested time off to spend time with my literally dying grandmother. This trainer I was assigned to was ex-military, and I say ex-military because the judge offered him, instead of taking a prison sentence, that he could instead join the military. So his service to the military was really just a sentence. So as you can imagine, like anyone, but specifically someone like him, was really not right in the head. And I had to deal with him literally 24/7. I woke up in the same truck as him. I drove the truck whilst he was sleeping 5 feet behind me. And then I would go to sleep with him driving. I mean, if you can just look at a semi-truck, and you can look at the inside, and it was 2 people sharing that entire space. Like, there were veterans who were saying that the training part of the truck driving is almost kind of like boot camp, like military boot camp. And that was pretty much my experience as well. It was very intense, but the biggest thing was that my trainer, my instructor, whatever, was a total nutcase. If you want to know what the kind of guy this guy was, within 2 hours of us driving together for the first time ever, he tells me that, he tells me about his whole sentencing and whatnot and his military service. And he tells me that he's killed so many people in his military service that he could, quote unquote, kill me and not feel anything. This is within 2 hours of meeting this person that he's telling me this. His wife said that he is an asshole, and at first I thought, oh well, she's just saying that because he's, it's his wife and she's teasing him and whatnot. That's what couples do. No, that was genuine. That was completely serious. So I was kind of right. He wasn't an asshole. He was kind of a step up from that. Oh, and by the way, one small detail. He was basically in charge of when we got to shower since he was the trainer. And we didn't shower more than once a week. And we were doing flatbed stuff. And if you know what flatbed stuff is, I don't have to tell you. But basically, it's the most manual labor out of any of the trucking divisions. Because you have to take out tarps, which are like 80 pounds or something, and you have to strap them down, and you have to like climb, and you have to like do all this shit. And we showered like once a fucking week. But yeah, it was basically a complete failure. I almost died, or at the very least, I certainly risked my life. Completely unnecessary. And I had to stop that shit real quick. And then basically from that, this is really reductive of my whole experience, but it was basically like redefining what my perspective is on like working hard and like providing value or like being a valuable person to both like a company and society in general. Yeah, it's like this whole personal thing. But anyways, from there I decided like I think I was just in such a bad spot that I finally was open to like anything. And it was something with me reconsidering going into IT, because I always thought that like IT was for nerds, which is totally true, but like I'm so fucking stupid, and I was like so like green behind the ears. I had no idea about what life was like, that I was not genuinely considering going into IT, or like the cons of being considered a nerd would like be too great or whatever. It was really stupid, because I am literally the biggest nerd possible. It completely like fit me as like my personality. So because of that shift, after I left my trucking job, I decided to go back to college and finish my degree. Luckily for me though, the best fucking time in all of existence to return home was right before fucking COVID happened. And it's the COVID, the boom. I don't even know where to begin when talking about COVID, so instead, I'm just going to continue to talk about it generally. So, COVID fucking sucked. This whole, like, 2020 pandemic thing, I thought that there'd be some redeeming value, like, oh, well, I mean, like, I guess things are going to be more, like, introverted based, or at least there's more consideration, and it's the monkey paw curl, because I got exactly what I wanted, but in the shittiest way possible. I didn't realize how much I valued school or work when I had to stay at home 24/7 at my parents' house since I had to move back in. Also, because the college I was attending had the worst fucking online classes, I literally deferred my tuition because they were basically undoable. I remember attending one class where the class page was just blank. And I'm like, oh, well, it's going to be filled soon, the professor's just lazy, or, he's just late or whatever. And then we had our first mandatory virtual meeting, and the class page was still fucking blank. I waited an entire week after our first meeting, and there was still absolutely nothing on that page. So I dropped all of my classes, and I just decided to work instead. And let me tell you this, the job that I picked was great initially, because COVID made everything so slow. But then as soon as work started to pick up, it turned from this job being a really easy, almost kind of fun, slightly above minimum wage job to borderline slave labor. But hey, look on the bright side. When I finally decided to leave, They actually asked me to prolong my 3 weeks notice to 4 weeks because they wanted me to finish training what would eventually be my replacement. And because I was a naive and overly kind child at the time, I mean, I was 22, I said yes, only to find out that the people I was training who had no prior experience in the job I was doing was going to be paid a whole $3 more an hour than me. And the ones who would stay with this company would actually not see their pay increase to the level of the literal new hires until like a full year. Fuck that job. Anywho, when making this, I felt like I was going to talk about COVID a lot more than I'm actually going to be talking about it. But when I look back on COVID, it's like, what really happened? It's like, okay, the George Floyd riots, the storming of the Capitol, and just the complete domination of politics in the mainstream because of the 2020 election. This is obviously not a political channel, and so I have nothing that I can really say about any of this that is not going to come off as just being like inappropriate and just overall stupid. But yeah, I don't even remember what all happened in 2020 and 2021. I remember there was like Australian, like huge, massive Australian forest fires. But I will say that the lockdown quarantine, which everyone experienced, was terrible. In my opinion, it lasted for like maybe a whole year longer than it should have. And, you know, there's multiple reasons to blame for that happening. One, because people thought that COVID was like polio, and like the way that like they talked to legislators and just other, you know, government officials was just that like everyone was going to die if the quarantine was going to be lifted. And then, of course, you have people who just refused to just wear a mask, which to me, when I was working during the pandemic, like I had to wear a mask literally like all the time. I could never take off my mask ever. And from my perspective, it's like, damn, dude, you really are a free citizen for choosing to not wear a mask during a literal pandemic. The sovereignty that just radiates from your beer gut is just so palpable. It's just so crazy how much of a stink people made for having to wear masks indoors. It's like, dude, as soon as you leave my store, you can just take off your mask. It's just when you're inside with other people. Like me and a whole bunch of workers during the pandemic all basically just had the same complaints that like these people were just such an unnecessary burden on our work lives. And you were forced to do it because if you didn't tell these people to wear a mask, then somebody who was wearing a mask would say, oh, this person isn't wearing a mask. Why aren't you doing anything about it? So you either hassle the person who's obviously not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or you get hassled by someone for you not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So, you know, and the response is like, well, why do I have to wear a mask? It's like, dude, it's a literal citywide mandate. Like, this is not me telling you this. My company had a 3-strike policy, and unfortunately, I did have to threaten some people that they'd be escorted out if they didn't leave. Just looking back on it, it's like, this is so stupid that I had to deal with this. That being said, like, I got vaccinated kind of as soon as I could, but I wholeheartedly did not support the vaccine mandates because, like, Pfizer was involved. I honestly don't know anything about, like, Moderna, or I don't think Johnson & Johnson doesn't have a very good history either, but, like, Pfizer is, like a career criminal. Like, I'll probably, like, put something on the screen about Pfizer's history or something like that, but, like, Pfizer is not a good company. Like, they are not doing things in the interest of the public, you know? So to me and a lot of people, it probably seemed as though this was just a really big, like, bureaucratic money grab by Pfizer. You know, they can save face and say that they're, you know, saving the world by making this vaccine and also get a shit ton of money for it. And since the government's paying for it, well, now you have to take it. You don't have a choice. You have to take this fucking vaccine now. And I just think that that's really stupid. The efficacy and the potential side effects were all like preliminary trials that were just not done, and you had these professionals in the medical community back in 2020 saying, like, you know, we can't expect a vaccine until at least 2 years, something like that, and then the vaccine came out in like 18 months or something. This is like complete flip-flop, you know, as to whether or not this is like safe or not, you know, because of course it's the government paying for it, so of course it's going to happen. I don't think this is a really partisan take at all. I mean, for one, this deals with everyone regardless of your political opinions, but nobody on the left or the right supports evil companies. And so, because I mean, people got really mad at people who were against the vaccine mandate, and because of that, it then turned into a partisan partisan issue. I don't even think it's really fair to say that like Democrats were pushing it, because it was like a very select few Democrats who like just seem to be like pro-authoritarian like Democrats. I don't even know how to like describe these type of people. In hindsight, looking back on all of this, you know, I think most people, I don't fucking hear about the vaccine, the COVID vaccine ever at all nowadays. In 2024, I almost never hear about it. You know, it's literally just turned into a flu shot, right? Again, I'm trying to be as reasonable as humanly possible, but like I am very pro-vaccine when it comes to like the very obvious things like smallpox, measles, tetanus, polio, you know, whatever. Like all those, you know, all those vaccines that you have to take as a kid. I'm 100% for that, and I think it's a bad thing that you don't take those vaccines. But like I don't get flu shots, and I haven't gotten a COVID shot since the initial ones. Again, never have gotten COVID once, and I haven't gotten the flu in like, yeah, I don't think I've gotten the flu in over a decade, and I haven't been getting flu shots like this entire time. Yeah, it's just one of those things where people really lost their top for very social media-esque reasons. Like all this uproar would have just never existed without social media. The only thing left to talk about is the Freedom Convoy, and that to me again is like not really partisan. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but I just love people who are like, you know, this country is like so divided, but like they themselves are the people who like unnecessarily make things partisan or make things divided. I just always think that's really funny, in a sad way, of course. So I'm not going to comment too much about the Freedom Convoy, because I guess it's just a partisan issue, but I will say the response, like the anti-response to the Freedom Convoy, like I'll put on like one of the responses on screen that also got like really high upvote counts. And it's like the most narcissistic post ever, and it somehow got a resounding support from, I mean, this is fucking Reddit. What did I expect, really? I know a bunch of funds were frozen. I don't know if those funds were ever released, or if the Canadian government just yoinked to that, but I guess it doesn't really matter anymore, because again, this is pretty old news. It'd be funny if Trudeau just didn't care about the convoy at all, and he just wanted a reason to buy a new Louis Vuitton handbag. But yeah, I think that's everything that happened during the main COVID period. I've since graduated from college with a bachelor's degree in a pretty competitive field, and this entire time I've been so busy that not only did I not have time to make videos, I didn't even have time to like AFK old school RuneScape, and that's basically the whole COVID roundup. I guess COVID and beyond. If you stuck around for this long, thank you so much. I'm doing my best possible to deliver good stuff in a shorter timeline. I have a ton more stuff coming up, talking about like the trajectory of this channel, because spoiler alert, ding 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 ding, spoiler alert, this channel is definitely going to be terminated soon, or at least like the utility of the channel is going to be terminated soon. I have a very clear end goal for this channel in sight. So thank you again for sticking with me, and thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Okay, but you were talking all that shit, Alex.
Yes,
seriously.
if you talk to him, yes.
Alex, you were talking.
But did you talk to him though?
No, but I want to fight because you were talking all that shit. What do you mean? What do you mean, Alex? Seriously. Do you want to fight, yes or no? That's all I want to know. Because if you don't, you're a pussy ass bitch because you called me one too. And I'm not a pussy because I will swing on your ass. Don't think I won't.
Guys, what the fuck? We're in a neighborhood.